So I am excited to be here. We are at Cannes Lions and we are at the Instacart studio with Allie Miller. Super excited to be here and obviously a fan and user of Instacart. And I have so many questions. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So yes, I'm Allie. It's very nice to meet you. Great to be here. I'm the general manager of the advertising team at Instacart. So what that means is that I oversee our product and engineering teams in addition to our sales and commercial teams. So it's really the 360 of what brings our ads business to life for our partners.
That's a pretty big job.
Yeah, it's been a busy week. It's been a busy year since I've taken that job.
So yeah, how long have you been in this role now?
So I've been at Instacart for 4.5 years, and I've been in this role for about a year, just coming up on a year.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to start with a question that I'm absolutely curious about. I was actually thinking because I use Instacart, my daughters use Instacart. One's in New York, the other one's in San Francisco. In my mind, I kind of forget that there's physical stores.
Yes.
Like, talk to me about like what's the balance of do you have that stat like in store versus people that are using online?
Yeah.
Is it still predominantly physical?
Yes. So it still is predominantly physical. And so what we saw, I mean, of course, we all lived through the life-changing moment where online grocery became essential to all of us. And so that really supercharged growth in the online grocery space. But it is one of the lowest penetrated verticals when you talk about e-commerce. So we're only at about like 13% penetration versus some other spaces where, you're in the 20s, 30s, 40s and more. And you
Interesting.
think about electronics and other things that we're much more used to buying online. And there's a reason for that, which is that online grocery is really hard. You need to have a deep understanding of tremendously large catalogs, what's actually being carried in the grocery store, what's on the shelf. And we do that at the scale of 2,200 retailers on our marketplace. And so that means billions of items in our catalog,
Yeah.
understanding all of the different selection and needs and what's in stock on the shelf at grocery stores. And one of the important things about Instacart, when you think about connecting the digital to the physical,
Correct.
every order you place on Instacart is actually happening in the store when an Instacart shopper goes into the store and picks those items on your behalf and delivers them to your doorstep, and you enjoy that wonderful convenience. That is really connecting that element of, it's a physical item, it's things you're feeding your body with and nourishing your family with. But it still is starting from that digital experience where, of course, that creates an incredible opportunity for brands to connect with consumers. It creates incredible first-party data that we can use to personalize and drive the experience forward. But ultimately, it's still about those physical products that you have in your hands at the end of the day.
You know what? I was going to ask another question, but now I wanted to ask you how much of the experience is really focused on the shopper, right? Because obviously I go through it and I pick all the things and I just hope that they're going to pick,
Yes.
the ripeness of
Yes.
the vegetable that I want or the fruit. How much do you track that?
Yes. So there's a lot of parts of Instacart that the consumer doesn't see.
See, yeah.
So one of the things that's actually really fun about Instacart is we will go shopping ourselves. So we have
I love
shop-a-thons, and
that.
we call it Customer Love Month, and we all go shopping. And so we
Well, do you go shopping for
for customers. Yes,
customers?
exactly.
I love
So
that.
so you never know. I might be your Instacart shopper one day. I will not pretend to be as good as an Instacart shopper as many of the amazing shoppers that work with us, but ultimately there's an entirely different app experience that the shopper has. That includes all of your preferences. And in fact, we've rolled out more ways to express your preferences. So you might remember from our recent big game ad, as
Yes.
Instacart helps you choose your bananas. So, you can choose, do you want slightly green bananas if you are, maybe not a normal person and you want green bananas? It's a very personal preference. Or you want something really ripe or something right in the middle. And we're rolling that out for more types of fruits and vegetables to address one of the most needed requests from Instacart, which is to actually prefer, a specific type of ripeness or a specific, especially avocados being a specific ripeness that people are very picky about. So all of that kind of comes into play in terms of how the different sides of the Instacart marketplace come together. And for me, working on the brand side, this really comes back to how brands are recognizing that this platform deeply connects with consumers, allows them to kind of express those preferences, build their baskets, build full grocery baskets, and it gives them a chance to promote discovery, promote purchase, and get into those baskets for the first time, which can be incredibly valuable both for the largest brands in the world that
Right.
work with us and also, of course, for challenger and emerging brands that are just fighting to get through. and get discovered on our platform.
And I just thought of the fact that trust is such an important part of this
Yes.
because with each experience you build trust, and the more trust you're gonna that cart gets bigger and bigger with
Exactly.
with each.
Exactly.
Before we move away from physical, I was going to ask, what about the technology that's going on in the physical? Because I was reading around some of the experiences that you have in the physical store,
Yes.
and literally putting stuff in your cart.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, online grocery is growing quickly, but of course, the majority of transactions are still happening in the store, and we expect that to be the case for a long
Lots
time.
of data there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's an incredibly huge opportunity to make that experience more useful and valuable to the consumer, and also to connect it to this kind of broader ecosystem that we have as Instacart, working across all of the retail partners that we have. Not being a retailer ourselves, we're really in the business of helping retailers and grocers be successful
Correct.
and compete in a world where not every grocer has the resources or time or investment of some of the largest companies in the world. So that brings us to the store. So our connected store initiatives are really all about bringing that technology to life, kind of taking the best of e-commerce, bringing it back into the familiar store. And the best example of this is our Caper Cart. So that's our
Yep.
smart cart. Looks like a regular shopping cart, but it has a screen on the front. It has sensors inside. It has incredible physical AI and computer vision that can actually understand what you're putting in the cart. And the really cool thing about it is when you look at it from a brand and advertising perspective, that is a closed loop transaction. The transaction is happening on the cart. You have all of the capabilities of, hey, what did you just add to your cart? I have a recommendation for you. You just turned into the cereal aisle. I have a promotion for you, a coupon for you that might be interesting to check out. So all of this personalized discovery that really made online grocery so high impact and drove these incredible results for brands and a great connection to consumers that can all now come to pass in a much more personalized and dynamic way that's actually in the physical aisle.
Well, I love that too because I'm imagining also a lot of times I'm like, well, what's that recipe? Like, what are all the ingredients I might need? Like
Yeah.
having that at your fingertips as you're walking through.
Yeah.
Like that, I love.
Yeah.
I love that.
And that's a great connection to AI. So, as we're looking at kind of more complex needs, just as you're suggesting, all of these ideas around what on earth do I make for dinner? How do I decide which ingredients to buy? Now you can actually come to Instacart with our AI assistant and you can ask those questions. You can explore recipes, you can get recommendations, and those can turn into recommendations on what to buy. So, again, kind of really connecting all the different aspects of grocery shopping.
And I'm thinking about in the physical, right? You're really bringing the local grocers,
Yes.
right, into the conversation more about community. What's the culture? What's the culture that you're trying to cultivate,
Yeah.
not only internally with employees, but also
Yeah.
with the community?
A huge part of this is exactly what you said, that community connection that local grocery has, regional grocers have. Everybody has their favorite local grocer. And one of the most fun things about working at Instacart is I've gotten to know what some of those local grocers are that I didn't grow up with. So I grew up on the West Coast,
Okay.
Northern California. So I didn't know, the love that people have for a pub sub. I didn't know the love that people have for Publix, for example.
Wait a second. Alessia,
Yes.
pub sub. Did you hear that? My daughter is obsessed with pub subs.
Amazing. You can order them on Instacart.
Uh,
So I've found it really fun just to learn, what are the local preferences and what's that strong connection and identity that folks have to grocery that's so prominent in their region. And so a huge part of what motivates me and what motivates my team is that we want to help maintain that diversity and that community connection that local grocery has. And as I mentioned, not every grocer has the resources to create e-commerce on their own, to run retail media on their own.
right.
And so that's really Instacart's mission is we want to make it possible for a grocer of any size to have an e-commerce storefront, participate in our marketplace, be available to consumers. And then also what my team is building is the retail media capabilities that allow those retailers to be able to run retail media programs, generate important revenue that helps them to stay,
Right.
participating in a very, very important space. But importantly, does that, taking advantage of the technology we built, the foundations that we've built, accredited metrics, great optimization, quality results. And then brands have the ability to come to Instacart ads, buy in one place, show across the 2,200 retailers in our marketplace, the 310 partners that are using our ads technology on their e-commerce platforms. And so it's reducing fragmentation, it's helping to simplify and create a better standard really for how brands are able to drive those results at scale while still helping retailers participate. So I find that really motivating because, again, it really
Incredibly
can help
motivating.
to maintain, hopefully, that diversity of choice and that community connection.
Well, it sounds like, I don't know, what are we, 6 months into 26? And I
Hard to
that's
believe.
right, and I know fragmentation was a big, big focus for you,
Yes.
and by the way, the number of retailers you have is increasing
Yes.
literally by the day, which is also a huge, huge, testament to the hard work. Um, what about, off-platform? Can we talk about that for a little bit?
We
'Cause
absolutely can.
I think that's really interesting too, and something that I learned as I was kind of doing my research here. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So all of this e-commerce behavior, all of these digital first purchases, folks who are placing grocery orders to a real address where they live today, not where they lived when they got their loyalty card. These are all things that contribute to an incredible breadth and depth of first party data that, of course, again, kind of goes across all of the retailers, the 2,200 retailers on our marketplace at a
I just think that's
national
amazing.
level.
Like, I mean, you keep saying that.
I
I'm
know
like, wait
it's
a second,
it's
it's like,
hard it's hard to imagine, but it's true. There's a
it's
lot
like
of grocery out there.
amazing.
Yeah. So ultimately that creates this incredible first party data. And within the last couple years, what we've started to do is now make that data available beyond our walls. Of course, in a privacy safe way and making sure
Right, of
we're
course.
protecting consumer data as part of that. But now, we know that you're not going to spend all of your time grocery shopping. You spend some time grocery shopping, and we want to make that a fantastic experience. But we spend time doing lots of other things. We're watching TV, we're browsing our social apps, we're, watching online video platforms. And so the ability for brands to then connect with consumers in all of those moments, inspire in the way that some of the greatest CPG brands are fantastic at inspiring. Um, they can still continue to do that and reach folks across all these different platforms, but do so in a way that's more targeted, at an incremental audience that's generated by our data, that's able to create shoppable experiences for consumers who can then see a product being advertised, get inspired to buy it, choose to buy it, figure out that it's
Right.
in stock at their local grocery store, get that product in their hands in an hour. And then the brand gets the closed loop data around, hey, did I acquire a new consumer today? Did I drive a purchase downstream? And so I think, especially being here at Cannes, we have this incredible convergence of creativity and media and commerce. And I think this is really one of the areas where that comes to life in such a natural way by kind of bringing strengths together across different aspects of what brands do so well, of what ad platforms do so well, of what retail media does so well. And I think it's just helping retail media break out of its kind of e-commerce silo and becoming much more of a capability that can be applied across a media plan.
Oh, and it's interesting you talked a little bit about, obviously the AI conversation keeps coming in, and one of the things that you said, I forget where I heard this, but I loved it. You said, AI is anticipating that next need, right? And that's absolutely amazing, right? But you have to use your brain for the rest,
Oh, yeah.
right? I loved that,
Yeah.
right? And it really speaks to this human times machine
Yes.
conversation, right? Because the AI really helps you multiply whatever it is that you're doing as a human, but the creativity does not get replaced.
Absolutely.
Where do you stand on that?
I'm happy to share that I stand on creativity not being replaced and using our brains for the things that
Yes,
things are
I
great at.
love that. I literally,
Yeah.
look, I put a little asterisk next to it.
That's so funny. I love that. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, AI is, of course, part of our lives, whether we know it or not, across many different ways that
And we do know it. We
exactly
do, right?
whether we're interacting, with any sort of, day-to-day activity at this point. And so, one of the things I do like to mention is, AI is coming to life in many ways across Instacart, behind the scenes, personalization, ranking, relevance.
right.
We're using it for all of those purposes. Of course, we're using it as employees as Instacart to become more efficient and help to, understand information at scale, plan our days a little more easily. And we're building tools for brands to be able to manage their campaigns more easily, provide recommendations. But when a lot of us think about AI, what do we think about? We think of conversational commerce, we think of chatbots, we think of that whole conversational experience, which has really helped to connect what we have in our brains to something that might be helpful to answer this more complex question versus needing to translate that into a very structured search query. And so that is an incredible opportunity to serve more needs on Instacart. So we talked about recipe planning, meal planning.
Yep.
It's really hard to figure out what to cook for dinner. That is part of the process of building a grocery basket. And now we can start there. We don't
Yep.
have to start way downstream. And so I find that really exciting. It's giving consumers this way to interact with us that they haven't been able to before. At the same time, at the end of the day, it's so personal. It's like the preferences that we're going to be able to infer a lot based on what you bought on Instacart before, what you're interested
I
in.
don't even know what you want. We're gonna
Exactly. So we can start with all of that background, the first party data we talked about. All of that is helping to make this experience really personalized. But we still need to learn what is resonating
right.
with consumers, what's resonating with you, what's resonating with me, and what are the behaviors at scale that will take hold. The technology is moving so quickly, but human behavior takes some time to adapt.
Right.
And so, from the ads perspective, that means we're not rushing to build ads right away. We want to see what is actually resonating in this experience. What are people asking? What do they come back for? What do they not come back for? And how do we build experiences that help brands maintain that connection to consumers in this new context, but do so in a way that feels really natural and drives results? So that's a huge part of what I want to understand is, the human behavior element of this. What will resonate? What will drive results? Nobody knows that
Nobody
yet.
knows
As
that
much
yet.
as they may claim, nobody knows what the answer is to that yet.
They really don't. All of the different touch points, how do you see the path to purchase with all of the different channels and information, quite frankly, that consumers are getting?
The path to purchase is definitely no longer linear. It's not been linear for a long
Well,
time.
yeah.
There's so many different touch points, as you mentioned. You can get exposed to a brand, you can know about a brand, you can decide to purchase it later. You may not purchase it on Instacart, you might purchase it somewhere else. And that's really where the data comes into play and where I think it's so helpful for brands, agencies working in the retail media space to really advocate for how data can be used across a media buy, because then you get this full perspective of what actually happened across all these touch points. If you're, for example, one of our partnerships is with the trade desk, and you can use our data to activate audiences and closed loop
Okay.
measurement within the trade desk. If you have this activation and you're using that to reach connected TV buyers, let's say, then you will be able to understand the path to purchase on all those different touch points. And if it resulted in, for example, a new to brand
Okay.
purchase back on
Interesting.
Instacart. The other thing that's really helpful in this is really getting back to the nuts and bolts of on platform retail media advertising is true causal sales lift information. That can be incredibly helpful to control for all these different factors that are happening outside of what Instacart can see. So if I don't show ads to a certain randomized set of
Okay.
consumers, and I do show your ads to the other randomized set of consumers, what is actually the difference in sales volume that's observed? That can help to control for any, billboards you're using or other media you're running, and it can truly show the causal impact of running ads on Instacart. And we have this platform wide sales lift stat of 25%, which is really something that we're proud of
That's
in terms
impressive.
of the impact, the kind of bottom funnel, downstream, true sales, causal sales impact that we can drive across our platform. So I think a combination of these factors, understanding who you're reaching, understanding that closed loop measurement, using that as a thread across the entire media buy, combined with this incredibly, highly validated methodology to understand true causal sales lift, I think that can give a really great kind of 360 view of what's actually happening with the impact.
Um, Quick question. Have you seen a change in brand affinity, with
Hmm.
the advent of all this technology?
Yeah.
What have you experienced?
Some of this dates back to just the advent of online grocery in general. And so we work with 9,000 brands on our platform. We have many large established brands, but we also have many brands that are looking to break through, challenger brands or emerging brands. And this has been an incredible opportunity for brands who are looking to break through to be at eye level with some of the largest established brands in the world for consumers who are looking to discover something new and buy something on Instacart. And so what you can see is that when you move from the kind of traditional physical aisle, which is the same for all of us walking into the store, unless you're using a caper cart, you're getting those personalized recommendations. But we have the same planogram. It's the same, products on the shelf, regardless of, who's walking into the store. When I go on Instacart, it's personalized for me. It's personalized for you, and it can provide such a more dynamic experience that can help emerging brands gain that shelf space essentially get, that build that
Love that.
awareness, build that introduction to the consumer. And we see that consumers absolutely love these brands on our platform. That's why emerging brands continue to lean in with us as well. We're able to help drive that breakthrough. We're able to help drive that new to brand first basket addition. And that can be something that is incredibly valuable just based on the nature of online grocery itself and is just supercharged with all
I
of the
like that.
technology.
First basket. I like
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna end with this one because I think it's so fascinating. You're a violinist
Yes.
with the Oakland Symphony. I think that is just phenomenal in every way. What synergies are there between that part of your life than the role that you play at Instacart?
It's so funny because I feel like I only see this now that I do it. It's not something that I planned. I never thought I'd be in online advertising, but it just ended up being a fascinating space. But now that I've sort of lived both of these lives as a musician and as someone who works in ads, one of the things that I think is incredibly relevant is the element of teamwork and listening in an orchestra. I am one of many people on the stage. I can play my part incredibly well, but if I'm not listening, if I'm not watching, if I'm not responding to what's around me, it is completely useless. And it's a very literal way to kind of understand what I need to do in my role, bring different functions together, listen to folks who may have different opinions than I do, understand, empathize, and then figure out which decision kind of makes sense to move us all forward together and kind of maximize the outcome. And I think that, it may be a little bit of a stretch, but I think it is the type of approach to working together that is equally appropriate to think about whether you're working in a company or whether you're working in an orchestra. And so it's something, in addition to that, it's just something that I really love. It helps to kind of use a different part of my brain, kind of open up different ways of thinking, take a little break from thinking about all the numbers. It's something that's I'm really passionate about and I feel incredibly lucky to be able to do and to
Oh,
be working for a company that also supports the fact that I occasionally take a few hours off for rehearsals.
I think that's fascinating, and, violin is actually one of my favorite, instruments. I have no talent at all, but my younger daughter, Taya, played for a very long time, and when she quit, I was devastated. So I find it I think you're absolutely amazing. I think you're
Thank you.
fascinating in every way, so
Well,
thank
we
you.
need audience members too. So,
Well,
come to your local orchestra.
now that my daughter is in San Francisco,
Yeah,
I can
come to the Oakland Symphony.
thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.